First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nicholas Cobb, and I'm the conference manager for EMC 2021. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all. I'll only say a few words in terms of how today's session will run, and also to welcome you all and to thank our speakers who are really looking forward to the presentations today. So we'll be kicking off very shortly with Yannis Bassias, who is very kindly chairing our session today, and then moving through to our esteemed panelists, and then through to the Q&A. So I absolutely urge you all to please put your questions into the chat boxes, and we'll endeavour to make sure that everybody is covered and we have satisfactory answers to you. Just a short note: we are still absolutely looking to run EMC live event later in the year, subject to COVID conditions, and we have an extensive range of other webinars coming out through the year. So I'd urge you all to look at the website. But first of all, once again, I'd like to welcome Yannis, our chair for today, and to thank you all once again for joining us this morning. Thank you.
Good morning. We are here again as in 2021, as the previous year, and today we will deal with 3 keywords. This is our webinar. The 3 keywords are gas, Southeast Mediterranean, and sustainability. The first 2 keywords are repeated now since 5 at least years or even more in every conference, every congress, and now every webinar. Let us try to explore today how sustainability and gas go together in the Southeast Mediterranean. And we will try to explore this interconnection, I would say. We keep in mind that the trivial question remains sustainable growth or sustainability of growth. It is not exactly the same. Our speakers today are Mr. Mustafa Adelamer, research analyst in GECF, which is the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, Astor Sastry, director of Enersat Consulting, and the third one is Nicholas Drusiotis, Dr. Drusiotis, who is a senior project engineer with the Cyprus hydrocarbon company, and we need to learn and listen the update on this central position country in the Southeast Mediterranean, that is Cyprus. Thank you very much, and I will start. Mr. Mustafa Adelamer, who wanted to be the first one, so that he cover other obligations he has after that. But Mustafa? Oh, I don't see Mustafa is here. So, okay, I heard that Mustafa wants to go second. So, Nicholas Drusiotis, can you take care of that and start as the first person presenting your...
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Yannis. Yes, definitely. Let me share my screen with everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So, good morning to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Bassias. This is indeed a topic that certainly includes the concepts of collaboration, synergies, and new technologies. So the world is changing, perhaps at a faster rate than we expected. However, these global energy challenges are not something new. Energy challenges are interrelated, and therefore addressing them requires knowledge, collaboration, and commitment on a long-term strategy plan. Natural gas is a resource that can positively contribute to overcome these challenges and certainly to act as a vehicle for the energy transition, supporting not just the development of a regional sustainable hub, but the system in general. So before we move regional, let's have a quick look at the global natural gas market. We have used here BP's predictions just because very recently BP announced, compared to other majors, let's say a more aggressive strategy favoring the energy transition. At the graph at the bottom left shows the gas demand, and you can see that until 2035, the demand for gas is rising. Whereas from 2035 onwards, the demand is closer to today's level. Also, the graph on the bottom right shows the global LNG market. According to BP's predictions, the volumes required for the periods 2035 and 2050 is about double the volumes required in 2018. To maintain these volumes, exploration and gas developments will continue, but there is also another interesting element to these predictions, and is the importance of natural gas in the global energy mix. Cyprus is investing in upstream developments for more than 10 years, with highlights the discovery of Aphrodite gas field in Block 12, operated by Chevron and partners with Delek and Shell. The latest discoveries, the Calypso discovery in Block 6 by ENI and Total, and Galapagos discovery in Block 10 by Exxon and Qatar Petroleum. All these are considered significant finds, while further exploration and appraisal activities are continuing to collect information for the specific fields, but also for future targets in the region. Now, the most mature upstream project in Cyprus is Aphrodite gas field, with an approved field development plan, and the current efforts focusing on the preparations of entering the FEED stage. Similar to other energy-related projects internationally, Aphrodite field is facing challenges related to the low price environment. But additionally, there are some project-specific challenges that I will mention later. Now, the field development plant is based on a processing floating facility that dehydrates the gas and compresses the gas and sends it through an offshore pipeline to Egypt, targeting the existing LNG facilities, but also the local market. This is considered to be a robust technical solution that can take into consideration synergies across the value chain. Deep water gas finds have their own challenges. However, they also share some important benefits in this particular area of the world. They are costly and they're complicated to develop. And in addition, in Cyprus, these discoveries are located at a fairly long distance from the onshore facilities and also require pipelines to overcome technically challenging topographies. On top of that, the volumes require careful planning. Now, there are also advantages that we should mention here. The gas characteristics of these finds are very similar to other major deep water finds in the region. And additionally, you could see that all these finds are very close proximity to each other. On top of this, we could say that there are synergies that could be utilized and make these fields even more competitive. Now, on top of the synergies, there is the technology. And this particular area of the world holds the world records for the longest tiebacks. And I'm speaking particularly about the 100+ kilometers Tamar field to Israel and the amazing 200 kilometers plus Zohr field to onshore Egypt. This set of innovative subsea technologies is ready to support fields also in Cyprus. And it's a matter of time for technologies like the subsea compressor and subsea separators to be applied at these distances from shore and at these water depths, and therefore to provide perhaps another solution to overcome gas recovery. For East Med region, these potential synergies is not just collaborations between operators, but these are cross-border collaborations between countries. And this is very, very interesting. Examples of these collaborations could be, to an extent, the discussions for Aphrodite and Leviathan for gas sales to Egypt. On even higher level, the best evidence of these collaborations is the development of the East Mediterranean Gas Forum, which is based on the cooperation of 7 regional governments. These collaborations discuss the potential synergies for existing facilities, expanding these facilities, creating new infrastructure, which potentially will reduce the cost of production. But essentially, this forum aims to create a regional market framework for the price of the gas to be competitive, not only at the regional level, but at global level as well. Technology is a vital tool, not only for developing challenging fields, but also doing that in a sustainable manner. At CHC, we're looking into technologies for capturing emissions, such as the carbon dioxide, and then how to utilize and storage these molecules in an adequate manner. At the same time, we search for options providing cleaner power to operations. This means that electricity might be generated somewhere else, perhaps onshore or near shore, and transported to the offshore operations through offshore cables. Also, we monitor the optimizations in the FLNG technology, unmanned floaters, but also we invest energy and time in subsea technologies to take them at longer distances from shore and apply that at deeper water depths. So at the back of our mind is also how natural gas may contribute to the transition to even cleaner processes by investigating, for example, the concepts related to the blue hydrogen production. We are already involved in applied R&D projects to build our knowledge and our capabilities. For example, currently we are working together with the Oil and Gas Corrosion UK for an innovative idea to capture toxic molecules such as hydrogen sulfides and how to dispose them in an environmental friendly manner. Also, we're working in an innovative subsea separator project led by INTEXI and OGTC in UK. And also, lastly, we are leading the commercial efforts for the gas vessel Horizon 2020 project, which investigates the CNG marine transportation with the potential of applying the same concept and technology for transporting compressed carbon dioxide or even hydrogen molecules. Cyprus is important for Europe's energy strategy in the Southeast region, and therefore we support specific projects contributing to the trans-European networks for energy. The best example would be the European investment for developing the FSRU project at Vassilikos area, but also the ongoing studies for the development of the East Mediterranean pipeline. Having in mind also the Eurasia and Euro-Africa interconnectors, I think we all start to understand how electricity generated by different resources, including renewables and gas-fired plants, may travel across countries and across continents. So the key messages from CHC today is that gas plays a vital role for fueling the world with cleaner energy, not just now, but for many years to come. Cyprus is pushing and will continue to push for gas activities, not only because it's vital for the country, but also because these activities support the efforts to meet the local and global energy demand. There are technical challenges with the regional deepwater gas finds, but new technology, together with synergies available in the region, may unlock the true potential of the gas resources in the region. Climate action and sustainable development is not a luxury, but a prerequisite for any energy developments, not just in this region, but on international level as well. And finally, Cyprus is an important partner for Europe's energy strategy, while at the same time, Cyprus is committed to support the regional collaboration for transforming the region into a sustainable hub. Thank you very much for your time and the invitation to present today. I'm ready for any questions. Thank you again.
Oh, very good, Nicholas. Thank you very much. Nice presentation. And what is important is that we introduce now progressively the sustainability keyword that was something not present before. So now we go. I think we will have questions only at the end, so we can combine, and I hope that we will have sufficient time for that. So one more time, a change. So we will have Mr. Mustafa Adelamer to give his presentation today as a second speaker on carbon capture and what does it mean for the decarbonizing of natural gas entire area. So yes, dear Mustafa, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Yannis, for the introduction, and thanks for the EMC for organizing the event. Thanks for the colleagues in the panel for the insightful analysis. We'll just expand. Okay, is my screen shown?
Yeah, okay.
Yes. I will touch on the following topics: the impact of the current realities on the future of energy projections and how energy sources will evolve over the long term, the role of carbon capture in closing part of the emissions gap, and the current status of the application of carbon capture technology, factors impacting the development of the technology in the future, as well as how COVID stimulated investment supporting the carbon capture development, and what is the value it can bring to the East Mediterranean region. Exploring the percentage of change of energy sources in the future compared to the levels in 2019 from the world leading organizations in energy forecasting like the IEA, OPEC, GCF, and BP. All the mentioned outlooks see like definite decrease of coal, and oil will see implications in the scenarios that are aiming for achieving climate goals. There is agreement in all energy projections that renewable is going to massively expand in all scenarios in all regions. For natural gas, the case is different. Natural gas is going to have remarkable stability compared to other fossil fuels, even in scenarios that aiming to achieve climate goals. The GCF has developed a carbon mitigation scenario that investigates the potential of reducing global carbon emissions compared to the reference case scenario in which emissions are expected to flatten. The scenario assumes an accelerated transitions toward less carbon intensive energy systems, combining the following assumptions: accelerated penetration of renewables into the power generation sector, increased carbon prices, and increased penetration of EVs and NGVs. Without breakthrough in the above-mentioned technologies, the world will not be able to meet climate goals. It will reduce emissions, but will not meet climate goals. With implementation of new technologies and the application of currently available carbon capture technologies, the world will manage to close the gap towards achieving climate goals. There is a growing global consensus, even stressed by the G20, on the role of implementing carbon capture technology to bridge slightly the gap towards climate goals. But what is the current status of the technology and how it's going to evolve in the future? Carbon capture technology was first applied 50 years ago in the US and for natural gas processing. The existing global carbon capacities in 2020 around 40 million tons CO2 per year, coming from 21 projects, with the United States accounting for over 60% of the existing global capacities. Over 60% of the existing projects are applied to remove CO2 from gas processing for about 26 million tons per year, and 76 of them are applied to to use the carbon that's captured for EOR activities. The technology has been widely applicable in Saudi, Brazil, Australia, and recently in China. The factors regarding highlights the role of oil and gas companies in carbon removal activities and the vast experience in managing reservoirs, oil and gas complex assets, and well integrity. A Delphi study, which is a quantitative research methodology, qualitative research methodology that targets a group of experts to answer multiple questionnaires and open-ended questions regarding the characteristics and benefits of the carbon capture technology for the future. The most ranked benefits of the technology by experts are CO2 mitigation and the contribution to carbon economy. The technology will help to reduce CO2 concentration and reduce emission from sources, as well as through direct capturing from the atmosphere. The risks include the carbon capturing cost that's widely dependent on the CO2 concentration. To capture CO2 from natural gas, you need to spend $15 for ton CO2, but directly from the atmosphere, due to the lack of concentration, it could cost around $300. The Delphi study by Bassias and others in 2019 placed the factors impacting the development of the technology on uncertainty risk matrix. The main uncertain factors that have the highest impact on the development of the technology are how government policies are going to evolve in the future supporting the technology, and the CO2, cost of capturing CO2, together with the mitigation potential and how governments are strict towards meeting climate goals. In 2019, COVID-19 stimulated governments to strengthen their climate goals. Government announced supporting carbon capture projects with funds directed toward low carbon technologies in general, like the case of the EU that announced $12 billion as a way of supporting the EU Green Deal investment plan. The majority of the funds is directed towards projects and infrastructure, like the case of the UK, the Teesside project that's planned to capture 10 million tons CO2 per year. Grants are directed in the US, Norway, and the UK to capture carbon from the atmosphere. Interestingly, several oil and gas companies found themselves in urgency to leverage the carbon management opportunity with the development of carbon capture projects. For example, carbon capture projects in the UK and Norway are mostly applied through the involvement of IOCs like BP, Shell, and Equinor. The current combination of serious climate actions that stimulated governments to fund and support carbon capture, together with the role of oil and gas companies through the actionable contribution towards reducing emissions, will collectively help building around 80 million tons CO2 per year over the current decade. But this is not enough to bridge the gap. So the development maybe in the future, and not in our current decade, maybe in the next decade, will decide. From the GCF Global Gas Model reference case scenario, the GCF Global as a reference case scenario, the East Mediterranean region is expected to ramp up its natural gas production, reaching to 100 BCM by mid-decade. The increase in exploration and production activities should be managed under low emissions. Carbon capture can provide the opportunity for the region to reduce emissions, especially those coming from natural gas processing, leveraging the maturity of the application. Besides, it can decarbonize hydrogen production operation from natural gas, taking into account that some countries in the region, like Egypt, started to investigate hydrogen production, and other stakeholders could open the door for coordinating carbon capture projects to decarbonize the hydrogen production. An area of investigation here is how the region can leverage its strategic geographic location to build carbon capture hub close to Europe, the continent, which I believe has the biggest decarbonization potential. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Mustafa. Let's go to our third speaker, and then we will combine with a lot of questions. I think it becomes interesting, especially the point of view of Mr. Adelamer. It's something completely different from what we were looking until now. So let's pass to Mr. Ashut Sastry for his presentation, and start with questions and answers after that. Yes, Astos.
Great. Thank you very much. I hope I'm being seen and being heard, and that everything is okay. I'm sure it is. Thank you very much, Chairman Yannis Bassias, for the opportunity. Thank you to EMC conference organizers for inviting me to be speaking again. And I was quite fascinated by the opening that our chair made, that this discussion today is about 3 words. And one of the 3 words that we haven't yet talked about was sustainability. And I'll try and make my remarks on that dimension. I think the role of gas, the role of carbon capture and sequestration has been very effectively brought out. Chairman has always made a very important point that there is almost something about natural gas and LNG every month when it comes to speaking to the East Mediterranean. And therefore, I want to kind of focus a little bit more on renewables. And I will start by sharing my screen. Is the screen visible? Okay. So first of all, just a quick word about, just a quick word about my organization. It's Innerstrat Consulting is a strategy, policy, and technology advisory firm. And we work across the stakeholder base of governments, private equity, industrial clients. And what I will be speaking today is from that perspective of renewables, electricity markets, and clean technology, as opposed to oil and gas and LNG, on a topic on which on the same platform I have previously spoken a little bit about. And the reason for that is that the East Mediterranean region is going to be, future activity in the East Med region is going to be significantly influenced by the announcement by the European Commission of a target to achieve net zero by 2050 in what is called the European Green and Digital Strategy, or as a short, it has been called the European Green Deal, which was kicked off in March 2020, just as the COVID-19 pandemic was taking hold. So my simple point that I will be making today is that this particular piece of development, binding in legal commitment for the EU, will be a single most driver for the energy transition to a sustainable East Med region amongst the various other regions of Europe. And therefore, what I would like to kind of really talk about is, when we talk about sustainability and energy transition, what are the various things that we usually talk about? And I would just like you to focus on the left-hand side of the slide, that this energy transition essentially means decarbonization of energy. We've heard from the previous 2 eminent speakers as to how natural gas and carbon capture and sequestration, utilization and sequestration and storage, CCUS, are critical to achieving the European Union's targets for net zero. And therefore, I will not labor that point any further as such. I think it is pretty well understood that we all need to, comply with the 1.5 degree average temperature rise trajectory, which has been now, signed into a legally binding commitment as part of the Paris Agreement. There are 3 other dimensions which I think are more important as we achieve this transition and sustainability. And these 3 drivers will actually also have a very significant impact on how the role of gas and renewables moves going forward. It has been very well recognized now that natural gas and renewables are very complementary, provide a very good uh, mutual complementarity when it comes to managing and enabling the energy transition. So we need to talk a little bit about decentralization and democratization of energy. By decentralization, meaning that smaller, localized renewable energy, energy projects, many of which could be renewable energy projects. Democratization is really about making sure that customers and suppliers have there is a balance of power that has been established, and that usually is a regulatory function. But democratization also means demand side participation, technological options that customers can use, and the power that customers, the rising bargaining power of customers, that is now beginning to take shape as part of this transition. The third driver really is deregulation and market design. This is fundamental because how the renewables and gas, LNG and electrification strategy will actually end up into the final energy mix is going to be driven by the regulatory activity and how the market design actually works. And underlying all of this really is required a digitization and a digital transformation strategy. I always say that there is no other sector than particularly the electricity and the energy sector, which enables itself for digitization and digital transformation. Just to give you a simple example, in the energy sector, in the electricity sector, there are 8,760 hours in a year, and electricity is traded on an hourly or a half-hourly basis in many parts of the European Union. You have, because of deregulation, liberalization, where millions of European energy customers will be enabled to be able to switch supply. And you only have to do the maths that the European Union population, eligible customers, times the number of suppliers, times the number of hours available in a year, times the physical to financial ratio, and you realize that the traded market for energy will not be able to operate unless you have a digitization and digital transformation strategy. And all these four factors, in my view, will play a very significant role in the sustainability strategy in the East Mediterranean region. So I just wanted to make a simple point that whatever we kind of imagine will happen, or we are already beginning to see happen in the East Med region, is going to be driven largely by the European Green Deal, and in particular by the four elements of these of the European Green Deal. Jumping very quickly, because I really want to dedicate a lot more time to Q&A, so I'm not going to go through a very long set of slides. This is a slide and an image that I've picked up from the latest available renewable energy auctioning report published in March 2020 by the OME, the Observatoire Mediterranean de l'Energie. And one thing that you will notice very quickly is that renewable energy, on the chart on the left-hand side, talks about the existing capacity in the East Mediterranean region. And you will see that, very interestingly, the country of discussion today, Cyprus, does not figure in this slide published by the OME. But, I have therefore, made an addition in which I will show in the next slide. But the slide on the right actually talks about the declared targets by these countries when it comes to renewable energy. So I think this is very important to understand that when we speak about the role of natural gas, the role of carbon capture, utilization and storage, and the essentiality of fossil fuel energy in the region, we also got to understand that this is also a region which is endowed with renewable energy resources, and they have made some very significant announcements as to how much renewable capacity they expect to have in place on the ground in the specific timeframes. I think what jumps out on the right-hand side is the huge bar on Egypt, where by 2035 they talk about almost 60,000 megawatts of renewable capacity being developed in the region. So now that really begs the question as to how this energy mix in going forward is going to look like, what really could be the role for natural gas, what might happen to utilizations, and therefore how will the natural gas versus renewables competition develop within this emerging market space. This slide really talks about Cyprus, which was not discussed in the OME report. But I think what jumps out very clearly is that even in Cyprus, which currently has a renewable energy installed capacity base of approximately 200 megawatts, is by the year 2030 expected to go to 700 to 1100 megawatts. Now, this range is a range that I have picked up from a report that has very recently been published in January 2021 by IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency. And I really commend participants attending this session to actually go through the IRENA Cyprus report, which talks about the scenario developments for Cyprus. It is quite interesting. And the second point I would really like to make on the slide is on the last part, the level of interconnection. There is a 2000 megawatt Euro-Africa interconnector, which I think has been mentioned. I think the first speaker, Mr. Nicholas, actually mentioned the Euro-Africa interconnector, which is a 1710 kilometer electricity interconnector from Greece connecting Cyprus and Egypt. And it is again a project of community interest, investment commitment around $4 billion. One of the points which I see now emerging as a result of some of our work internationally, not only in the East Med region, but also in Central Asia, in Western Europe, is that there is as you find increasing trend or a trend favoring, increasing levels of electrification, the role of an electricity interconnector is now being seen as a much more easy to implement, much more easy to deploy solution for achieving integration amongst regions, but also achieving renewable energy integration in the region. And so I think I would really like us in the discussion to focus a little bit more on the electricity interconnection dimension. A lot has been spoken about the gas interconnectors, connecting the gas fields. The challenges for electricity interconnectors are no different from the challenges for gas interconnectors. But given the way the European Union's taxonomy project has also now articulated the importance of electrification, and therefore electricity interconnectors, in my view, are likely to get a little bit more traction than gas interconnectors. And this relative balance is something that we need to think through a little bit more carefully. So as a result, in terms of scene setting for the discussion that we will follow right now, is just a few points I would like to make. We have seen there is a tremendous expectation on renewable energy, but will these expectations be met? What has been the track record so far of the countries in the East Med region to actually meet the kind of really ambitious renewable energy targets that they are proposing? Even important is what would happen to security of supply in the region, given the demand that is growing, if they are not met. Serious questions for electricity interconnectors, as I have already just mentioned in the slide previously. Regulatory developments in the region are picking up momentum. How will this East Mediterranean region will emerge as a single integrated market? How will the renewable energy optimization happen? Along with the gas and LNG optimization is an important point for discussion, I think, today. I've articulated the IRENA 2021 scenarios for Cyprus. I find that report very interesting from a gas and LNG perspective. And I always say, in the interest of interdisciplinary understanding, that it is important for the renewable energy industry to listen to what the gas industry is saying. But I think it is also important for the gas industry to understand what the renewable energy industry is saying, because the answer perhaps lies somewhere in between. And therefore, I really recommend the January 2021 published IRENA report on Cyprus scenarios, because it talks a lot actually about LNG development, import dependence of gas in its strategy. So I think that's a very interesting topic. And then final point, last but not the least, regional market integration will include regulatory coordination. And I think how the Mediterranean region regulatory agencies collaborate. There are fora available, like for example, the MEDREC forum is based out of Italy. It becomes a coordinating agency for the regulatory community in the region. And this aspect is actually also going to be quite important as we consider how we move forward in the sustainability dimension in the East Mediterranean region. So with that, I will conclude my presentation. I tweet about these developments fairly regularly. So some of you who might be interested can follow me on my Twitter handle, and I will revert back. I'll stop my video and revert back to our chair, who will then kick off our question and answer session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Astos. Great. I think it becomes more and more interesting. And hey, man, I think you put the finger somewhere where it hurts: electricity, which is true. It is true, and we will deal with that because there was a first question, very interesting, from one of the auditors saying, "So, what are we doing here? How can we benefit from all these natural resources? Is there any plan to communicate all these areas to make an energy hub?" So yeah, we will turn around that for sure. I would like to bring some questions the time that the auditors bring some more questions. So one first question is, shall Egypt could sell electricity to Europe? And this is addressed to Mustafa, Mr. Adelamer, if he's here. If he's not here, we pass to the next question. Okay, let me know that we don't have any answer yet to that. Yeah, let's. I had a lot of questions about Egypt and what will happen with Qatar and production of Qatar in terms of BCM. That is very important, and it is another parameter for the big equation that Astos presented. But okay, let's go to something different. I would like to address a question to Nicholas, Cyprus. The fact that the European Union is taking the leadership of the Green Deal and decarbonization policies, etc. Cyprus, as a member of the European Union, can be affected on that, and if yes, how can we make that easier and beneficial? Nicholas.
Oh, sorry. So thank you very much for the question. I think it's important here to emphasize on the word transition. This is vital because the specific transition described by EU is gradual and will take time to implement. And certainly it doesn't mean moving from one type of a fuel or a resource to another overnight. We are very fortunate at East Mediterranean because we are called to manage a greener source of energy to meet the local and global energy demand, which also is considered to be a vehicle for this transition. And also the Green Deal and the energy transition concept is not focusing only on renewables or moving to hydrogen, for example, but it's about a set of policies and regulations that include decarbonization, energy efficiency, energy utilization. Therefore, we should get benefit from these policies and regulations for our regional gas developments, because it's not just producing gas or producing energy, it's doing that in a sustainable manner. So if the concept of sustainable development is there, and the technologies being developed and synergies in the area are available, I'm very sure that we can make our regional gas developments even more competitive and more attractive. Thank you. I hope this covers your question.
I have a second one. Do you think that the EastMed could serve also to transport electricity or only gas?
So the East Mediterranean, there is different concepts into it. There is the East Mediterranean pipeline, but there is also these Eurasia, Africa interconnectors. So I think we should not isolate the systems. Overall, we are speaking about developing an adequate energy mix that somehow all these systems talk to each other, and therefore we can overcome and achieve this so-called the energy transition that we want to reach.
There was a map in your presentation, very interesting map, and I will use it. I mean, it is important to have a look on that in depth. Is with the pipelines that we have today in the entire Middle East, and how a lot of those arrive to Damietta and Idku, where the LNG trains are present in Egypt. Do you think that there is a possibility? And I'm asking that to Nicholas from CHC and to Mustafa from GCF. Do you think that there is a possibility to have a gas coming from the Leviathan down to Egypt for Idku and Damietta? Is Damietta and Idku sufficient in terms of capacity to deal with a lot of gas out of that can come from Zohr or elsewhere? Or we will need some other LNG trains onshore built somewhere else?
Thank you, Yannis, for the question. As I showed in my presentation, the forecast for the East Mediterranean, the whole region, to reach 100 BCM by mid-decade, and the demand in the region itself, especially in Egypt, is going to only leave around 8 to 10 BCM of excess gas for export. So I feel like the current facilities are enough for the existing projects and existing reserves in the region. The increase, we have recently saw the Ministry of Petroleum in Egypt announced for 24 blocks for exploration and production activities. That could change if we got something like Dhuhr, with the experience of like putting a great, big, massive project like this in 2 years. This could change the outlook. But based on the current facts, the current facilities are enough.
It's enough, and also the rate of, I mean, there is a growth for young people, something like 3% per year. So everybody will enter in the market. So the needs are important. And I think that most gas until now will be dedicated for the needs of the country. But besides the fact that there will be some export through LNG. This is true. Yeah, the question, I know, Mustafa, that you have a lot of things to do. This is why you disappeared, but we grab you here. You stay here, man, you don't move. So I had a question. You did not answer to the question before because you did not hear the question. Listen, listen. The point is, do you think that Egypt could sell electricity to Europe?
I'm not an expert in this field. I cannot say.
I just wanted to say that, yeah, I know it is difficult, but it is something that everybody can think about at a certain time, especially if there are new discoveries, as you said, with the 24 new blocks offshore, and a lot of them are promising. I know that very well. Yeah, can you please, Mustafa, give us very, very shortly because of the position you have, what Qatar can offer in terms of gas quantities, volumes, to the entire game of East Mediterranean going to Europe, because they have a lot.
Qatar managed to announce and already started the expansion in the north field. It's like at 77 million ton of natural gas, and I think they will not have competitors in the Asian and the European market. And the majority of the supplies goes to the southeastern market, China, South Korea, Japan, and their fleet can go by itself to Europe. So I don't think they will get into cooperation with the East Mediterranean. They can supply themselves. This is how this is my own views, not the GCF.
Very clear. We have some questions. Yeah, I don't want to monopolize that. About blue hydrogen. You know that we have a lot of shades of hydrogen recently. We have the blue, we have the black, we have the green, we have the yellow, we have the white. I'm a little bit lost, although I know some few things about hydrogen. As everybody, we have been interested in hydrogen recently. So yeah, anybody wants to talk about the hydrogen development today, and when do you think that we may have real industrial applications? Not only experimental that cost maybe $500,000 if you want to fly a plane for half an hour. That's something more practical. Yes, Astos.
I can take a stab at it. One of the key levers that the European Green Deal is anchored on is its commitment to developing the hydrogen infrastructure and developing hydrogen. The underlying view within the Commission on this is that, to be able to achieve net zero by 2050, while gas will be important, and you see some of that in some of the graphs that we've seen today, that gas usage grows up to about 2035 and then begins to come back to 2018, 2019 levels again. And that view is kind of based on a premise that future gas growth will have to be decarbonized somehow. And when you talk about decarbonization of gas, then you're really talking about either route through methane pyrolysis, which the European Commission calls purple hydrogen, or steam reforming of methane, which the EU calls as blue hydrogen. But what is really interesting in the Green Deal detail is out of the around 1.3 to 1.4 trillion euros that they have committed for new investments until 2050, about 475 billion euros have been committed to developing renewable hydrogen or green hydrogen, which means that about 300 billion euros are actually going into what is called the electrolyzer program, where renewable energy that is currently being produced in Europe. And the view is that not all of this renewable energy will always be available to dispatch when it is demanded, and therefore there is a opportunity, if you will, the European Commission thinks, of converting this renewable electricity when it is not being used to be pushed into an electrolyzer, to run an electrolyzer, and convert it to hydrogen. Because unlike electricity, hydrogen is a better or a more effective energy vector because it allows you to storage. So that is something which is on the aspirational side. But
Okay.
in my role as a advisor to the Global Gas Center, I know that even the European gas industry is taking this subject very seriously. What we are now seeing in the UK, for example, is certain levels of hydrogen blending coming into the natural gas pipeline. So the current thinking around hydrogen is that you may be able to have around 20% or even perhaps 30% of hydrogen blended into existing natural gas pipeline to be able to effect a decarbonization of the gas straight away, and then effectively moving from 30% to 100%. Now, that 30% to 100% trajectory is something which at the moment is uncertain. That's where a lot of pilots are happening. So there are these different sources of hydrogen from different colors that are coming in. I call them the rainbow colors. But that is where the uncertainty lies in future in the 2030 to 2050 time horizon. That's how I can hazard an answer at this stage in 2021.
Here we come to the question of Nikodimos Nikodimou from Cyprus. The question is to the panel, over a medium-term period, say 2040, what do you think will happen? So let's ask Mustafa about that. What do you think we will have in 2040? Lot of gas. Gas is the bridge to the renewables, or until 2040 the renewables will help gas to become very important. It's the egg or the chicken? Yeah. Yes, Mustafa? 2040 is the real limit, or we may arrive to 2050, 2060. Don't forget that there is a lot of work on fusion of deuterium and tritium, the hydrogen isotopes, that can change the entire image completely. The time scales and the time limits are the same. 2050, 2060 for electricity from nuclear fusion, not fission. No, Mustafa is not here. Nicholas, you want to say something about the 2040 limit?
Sorry, the question is it's about how do we see the majority of new gas developments being used to generate LNG or blue hydrogen in the midterm period?
Yeah, 2040. That will be also more or less the limit for carbon zero, etc.
So it is something that is a question coming also from CHC, the particular one. So we also have our questions regarding the hydrogen penetration to the market. So we are here also to listen from others.
Okay. I don't see any questions, discussion from the participants. We have a lot of participants, but we don't have any questions.
So for Bassias, if there is nobody here to answer on for one of your earlier questions related to if Egypt could export to Europe one day, so I cannot answer that question directly. Also, I cannot talk on behalf of Egypt. However, don't forget that the East Mediterranean Gas Forum is being developed to emphasize on reducing the cost of production and therefore making our product, our regional product, which is the methane molecules, more competitive in order to be able to sell it not only regional, but also outside the region. And meeting this, and since Europe is one of these regional markets, it might be one if the rules of the market are served and met.
Okay.
Chairman, I think there is one more question that I've just noticed. It's from Haytham Ali Osman to all panelists. which says, how can we benefit from all these natural resources?
The hub.
Are there any plans to communicate all these areas to make an energy hub? With your permission, I think I can take that. It's an excellent question because it talks about the subject of actually integrating the market, and how will that market integration take shape. And I go back to the point I made that market design and how the optimization of all these resources take shape will require local and regional activity. Local in the sense how local regulation in individual national markets will develop to be able to enable that dispatch. But even more at a regional level, how will these resources be integrated? And this can be taken from a gas perspective, from a global gas perspective, as well as from a regional electricity market perspective. So if I take the global gas perspective, the LNG market is now absolutely, in its very advanced stage of globalizing, if not fully, totally global already. And all these discoveries you see in the East Mediterranean region, and there is of course a tremendous rise in demand in Egypt, as Mustafa has already articulated that. He said that much of the developments will actually be consumed domestically within Egypt. But unless there is a mechanism to connect these developments to a global LNG market somehow, it's really difficult to see these projects kind of moving forward at the global level. And that could actually involve either connecting these markets to the European gas markets or to the Far Eastern markets. We have seen, for example, Far Eastern asset managers and off-takers look out for commitments from projects all over the world. And it might actually not be a bad idea to have some of the emerging Chinese, Korean, and Japanese buyers, Indian buyers, to actually start to participate as buyers in the projects in the region. It would really be useful from the risk, de-risking perspective. The more important dimension is, regionally, how are these resources going to be consumed? And to that extent, unless there is a regional exchange for gas in the for the region, or there is a regional exchange for a power market in the region, it is hard to see any real economic optimization of these resources taking shape. I think that is somewhere where international cooperation, perhaps at MEDREC, perhaps facilitated by the European Commission, those are the areas where I think there's a lot more work required to be done on the policy side to make these markets happen. That's my perspective.
Okay, so to come back on this question that was expressed previously, Nicholas, we can have maybe 5-10 minutes more if it is okay for you. So yeah, the question was about the 2040 time limit for decarbonization, etc. There is a paradox there, because in the oil and gas industry, you need 25 years to, for good life, for break even a platform or a big facility that you will build. And 25 years later on for discoveries that are done now, it will bring us to 2045. So we are talking about the development of the area with new blocks, discoveries, downstream, from now to 2045. And at the same time, there is a general policy, European especially, for decarbonization for 2040, 2050. So we arrive at the same time limits. Is it a paradox or no? Does it mean that it makes sense or not? I don't know if it is the last point that we can discuss, but on this question that is addressed from myself to all of you, I would like to have an answer. So is there any paradox, yes or no? Let's start with Nicholas, and then we go to Mustafa and Ashutosh.
So I will leave the rest of the gentlemen to answer this. I will come back to this.
Okay. Mustafa?
Reflect on what you said, Yannis. It depends on, and also what Ashraf said before, it depends on how we can connect these assets together. And it depends on the size of the other assets that's going to be explored in the future. Considering the technical difficulties of connecting these assets, especially with pipelines, it's going to be very expensive unless something big comes in the future, something like Dohr, maybe. So this is how I see it. But with as we see with the current conditions, with the current facts, we see IOCs are still applying to explore in this market. It means they still believe it's going to be relevant. And as I showed in one of the slides, the sustainable development scenario developed by the IEA expects that forecast to meeting the climate goals expect natural gas demand, when worstly hit, will be reduced by 12% by 2040. So gas is still there. And even meeting the climate goal is not gonna harm natural gas as people are expecting, that oil and gas will disappear. And I quote from Mr. Barkindo, the Secretary General of OPEC, he said that the disappearance, that the mismatch in the oil market caused economic pain globally. So it's very difficult to take oil and gas out in the coming decades, or to even think like they will disappear in the coming 2-3 decades. It's not practical.
This is why I ask this question, because we introduced in our meeting, our webinar today, the third keyword, which is the sustainability. And seriously, I thought a lot about that, and I wrote some articles about that. What is it is sustainable growth or sustainability of growth? It is not the same thing. It is very important. And today we have to think about the Southeast Mediterranean and the interconnection with Europe, and the need that Europe needs a lot of energy. But I mean, we might have maybe 1 billion, 1.5 billion of countries. They have a lot of comfort and a lot of economical wealthness, etc., etc. But what shall we do with the other 7 billion, or I don't know how many, and the population on Earth increases? So what may happen is that we may need not only more gas, but more coal. And you never know. So we don't have, I mean, we have to put in the equation that. And so what is this hub in the Eastern Mediterranean? Is it a hub for export? It is a hub for the sustainable growth of the countries and the wealth of the area. It is something that goes. I mean, it is more important that the hydrogen issues and how many shades of hydrogen we have that is useful for countries. They can have the effort to spend a lot of money and develop a lot on that. Don't forget that, yes, the populations, they will continue to burn not only coal, wood, and they do that. And this is very important. We are talking about 8 billion on Earth. So yes, we are a small hub in the Southeast Mediterranean, and we have to serve our interest geographically or commercially to bring something further to the west. But yeah, the equation is not very simple, and that means that the energy mix, it is not something that we can manage easily.
So sorry, because so I can come back to the question that was referred to me at the beginning. So and thank you, Mustafa. You allowed me some time to think about it. And coming back to this, You know,
Give me a lot of time as well.
It needs thinking. I mean, as I started my presentation, I said that these global energy challenges are not something new. It's something that really needs collaboration. It needs knowledge and needs this long-term strategy that we all need to be committed to implement it. But there is another parameter that is difficult to to affect, and it's the technology. So it's one side, you have the policies where the policies are set and you want to reach, but you cannot meet those policies if there is no technology to take you there. And therefore, I really believe that the change it will be how fast we will reach this adequate technology that would allow us to accomplish and reach the expectations. And gradually, we can see that we are getting there. I mean, seeing natural gas being having this role, this important role to this energy mix, is something that we have been talking about 20 years ago, and this is happening right now. Therefore, I don't think this map, this energy map, is changing so dramatically. I think we're following the scenarios where on top of it. However, we need to have in mind to keep the energy mix alive. We see what's happening right now in US, in Texas. I can go very near to our neighborhood. We saw what's going on in Greece. There is somehow a need for keeping this balance right now until the technology allow us to be sure how and when is the right time for the complete transition, perhaps to a future cleaner fuel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicholas. Anything else?
If I may come in on your question about the paradox. I agree. We can't sit here with a crystal ball and say this is how it will all pan out. And I've heard very carefully, both Nicholas and Mustafa's comments. So I don't want to repeat what they're saying. All of that is very relevant. I just want to remind everyone that even the IPCC fifth assessment report, which talks about a 2050 scenario in its current modeling, does not assume a zero role for fossil fuels. It is a very significant, it is in the minority according to their assessment by 2050, but it's a very significant minority. So how we are going to kind of, achieve that growth, which is about, by 2050, the prediction is around 9 billion people, 9 to 9.5 billion people. And, a fossil fuel mix of global energy mix of around 40%. That again, net zero will happen in some parts of the world. The question is how, given the way the financial flows are working, how much of this will actually be funded in the renewable sector? What sort of perspectives will asset managers have, the financial sector have on commitment to this sector? A large part of this community, and I find that the asset managers are absent in these discussions, but they are the ones who do make these decisions about future fuel mix going forward. So we got to be a little bit more open-minded about these things.
Thank you. I think the last word is to my friend Mustafa.
Yeah. Thank you, Yannis. We feel like that the energy transition is not going to be like what others are marketing for it. It's going to be one energy source. But the realistic thing is like even what happened over time. Coal didn't replace traditional biomass. Oil when it came didn't replace coal. Natural gas when it came didn't replace oil. I feel like the growing demand will need all of them to work together in the market that they can target to make sure that no one is left behind, that populations in Asia, Africa, Latin America, as well as Europe and North America, are all well supplied with energy. The forms were different, but all these forms will work together on supplying all these people.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nicholas Cobb this time. You can summarize our webinar. I think it is
Thank you.
what you can do best of us, better than us.
So, Yannis, firstly, a great thanks to you for sharing this really insightful discussion. We've gone over time, which is a great sign because it shows that there's a lot to talk about, and which will certainly lead us into the next and follow-up webinars. Any follow-up queries or questions that people might have, please do feel free to write in, and we'll be able to fill the questions out. But I would like to thank our speakers in reverse order. Ashutosh, thank you very much. Mustafa, thank you very much indeed. I know you've had another presentation on this morning, and
I'm really sorry. Like last minute adjustment.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem. So hats off to you for your multiple hat wearing skills. Well done. That's really great. Nicholas, thank you very much as well. And thanks to all of our speakers. We've had a great discussion, and sustainability really is an overarching theme now for nearly all of the discussions that we have in the oil and gas and hydrocarbon / energy sector. So whether you're based in the UK or South America or United States or Russia or Eastern Mediterranean, these are really important discussions to be having. And it's platforms like this which allow us to have those discussions and help form the debate for the industry and ultimately for the consumer. So I would like to thank everybody for their time. I would like to thank all of our participants today, and I wish you all a very pleasant day. Now we'll follow a very short video with our next upcoming webinar. So many thanks once again on behalf of EMC. Thank you.
And thanks for our audience. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.